El Mayo operated with impunity at the highest levels of the Mexican drug trafficking world by paying bribes to government officials, by bribing law enforcement officers. He controlled corrupt officials and officers who protected his workers and his drug shipments that traveled from Mexico into our country. He escaped justice for decades. But under President Trump's leadership, he has finally been brought to justice. Today's conviction is the latest success in the United States' fight against deadly cartels and transnational criminal organizations.
Ismael El Mayo Zambada compareció. In May, Ismael Zambada appeared before Judge Brian Coogan in Brooklyn, New York, and the hearing was over in just 15 minutes, with the prosecution and the judge leaving open the possibility of the death penalty if he were found guilty of the charges.
It's not a minor issue that a senator gave an interview to a foreign media outlet calling for intervention.
De los Estados Unidos ayudarle.
And you know what I told him?
No, Presidente Trump.
No, President Trump. The territory is sacrosanct. Sovereignty is sacrosanct. Sovereignty is not for sale. Sovereignty is loved and defended.
Se ama y se defiende.
Breaking tonight, we turn our sights to Mexico's former president, who has been accused of taking a staggering $100 million bribe tied to cartel money.
Imagine a world where the leader of a nation, entrusted with the safety of millions, is accused of pocketing a staggering $100 million bribe from one of the most notorious drug lords in history. Picture the chaos as a former U.S. president steps into the fray, exposing a web of corruption that stretches from the streets of Miami to the highest offices in Mexico City. This isn't a Hollywood thriller. It's the real-life drama unfolding between the United States, Mexico, and the ruthless cartels that threaten both nations. Tonight, we dive into a bombshell revelation from Donald Trump, who has linked a former Mexican president to a massive bribe involving the CJNG cartel. With Mexico's current leadership under fire and whispers of narco-politics growing louder, this story could ignite the biggest corruption showdown in modern history. Buckle up as we unravel the truth behind the $100 million scandal, explore its ties to Miami's money laundering underworld, and reveal why Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum is reportedly terrified. Stay with us. This is a story you won't want to miss. The bombshell. Trump's accusations rock Mexico. The stage was set on October 16, 2025, when a YouTube channel called Death Door dropped a video that sent shockwaves across the globe. With over 145,000 views and counting, the video detailed former President Donald Trump's explosive claim. A former Mexican president allegedly accepted a $100 million bribe from the infamous Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in the world. The accusation didn't just stop at the former president. It implicated a sprawling network of corruption, with tendrils reaching into Miami's financial hubs and Mexico's political elite. Trump's revelation wasn't just a headline. It was a direct challenge to Mexico's sovereignty and a call to action against the cartels that have long plagued both sides of the border. The video, clocking in at over 18 minutes, laid out a narrative that was equal parts gripping and horrifying. It painted a picture of a Mexico teetering on the edge of chaos, where drug cartels hold more power than the government, and where leaders like Claudia Sheinbaum are scrambling to maintain control. But before we dive into the political fallout, let's unpack the heart of this scandal, the $100 million bribe and its ties to the CJNG. The $100 million bribe, a deal with the devil. The story begins with a name that has become synonymous with cartel violence. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the former leader of the Sinaloa cartel. During his 2019 trial in the United States, a shocking revelation emerged, not from prosecutors, but from El Chapo's own defense team. According to Alex Cifuentes, a Colombian drug trafficker who worked closely with El Chapo, the cartel boss paid a staggering $100 million bribe to former Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto. The payment, allegedly delivered in October 2012, just as Peña Nieto was preparing to take office, was intended to secure El Chapo's freedom and ensure the Sinaloa cartel's operations could continue unimpeded. Cifuentes' testimony was nothing short of jaw-dropping. He claimed that Peña Nieto himself initiated the deal, reaching out to El Chapo with an offer of $250 million in exchange for his freedom. Ever the shrewd businessman, El Chapo reportedly negotiated the price down to $100 million, a sum that, while astronomical, was a mere fraction of the cartel's billions in revenue. The cash was allegedly funneled through intermediaries, with Miami serving as a key hub for laundering the illicit funds. This wasn't just a bribe, it was a transaction that exposed the deep rot within Mexico's political system. Peña Nieto and his team vehemently denied the allegations. His former chief of staff took to social media, calling the claims false, defamatory, and absurd. They pointed to Peña Nieto's record of capturing and extraditing El Chapo as evidence of his commitment to fighting cartels. But the damage was done. The idea that a sitting Mexican president could be in the pocket of the world's most wanted drug lord shattered public trust and fueled speculation about the extent of cartel influence in Mexico's government. From one cartel to another, while the Sinaloa cartel's dealings with Peña Nieto grabbed headlines, the death door video shifts focus to another player in this deadly game, the CJNG. Known for its ruthless tactics and rapid expansion, the CJNG has eclipsed the Sinaloa cartel as Mexico's most dominant criminal organization. Trump's accusation that a former Mexican president took a $100 million bribe from the CJNG suggests that the cartel's reach extends far beyond drug trafficking. It's a political powerhouse capable of buying influence at the highest levels. But how did the CJNG rise to such prominence, and what does this mean for Mexico's current leadership? Let's dive deeper. The rise of the CJNG, a new era of cartel power, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, led by Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, alias El Mencho, has become a global force in the drug trade. Known for its brutal violence and sophisticated operations, the CJNG has expanded its influence across Mexico and into the United States, Europe, and Asia. Unlike the Sinaloa cartel, which relied on charisma and strategic alliances, the CJNG operates with a militarized approach, using advanced weaponry and terror tactics to dominate its rivals. Its ability to corrupt officials, from local police to high-ranking politicians, has made it a formidable adversary. The death door video suggests that the CJNG's influence in Miami is particularly troubling. The city, long a hub for international finance, has become a hotspot for money laundering, with cartel funds flowing through real estate, shell companies, and offshore accounts. Trump's claim that the $100 million bribe was tied to Miami's financial networks raises questions about how deeply the CJNG has infiltrated legitimate institutions. If true, this scandal could have far-reaching implications for U.S.-Mexico relations, as both countries grapple with the fallout of cartel-driven corruption. Claudia Sheinbaum, a president under fire. Enter Claudia Sheinbaum, Mexico's president since October 2024. Elected on a platform of social reform and a promise to reduce violence through a hugs, not bullets approach, Sheinbaum has faced intense scrutiny for her handling of the cartel crisis. The death door video paints a grim picture of her administration, accusing her of failing to confront the cartels head-on, and even suggesting that members of her government are complicit in narco-politics. Trump's accusations have only amplified these concerns, with some claiming that Sheinbaum is terrified of the political blowback from these revelations. Sheinbaum's refusal to allow U.S. military intervention in Mexico has been a flashpoint in this saga. When Trump proposed sending U.S. troops to target cartel strongholds in Sinaloa, Michoacán, and Guerrero, Sheinbaum was quick to reject the idea, declaring that Mexico's sovereignty was sacrosanct and not for sale. Her words were meant to rally national pride, but they were met with skepticism in Washington, where some saw her stance as defensive or even suspicious. U.S. sources, as cited in the video, suggest that Sheinbaum's resistance stems not just from concerns about sovereignty, but from fear of exposing her own government's ties to the cartels. A senator's courageous stand. As the debate over U.S. intervention intensifies, a new voice has emerged from within Mexico's own government, one that dares to speak the truth about the country's descent into a narco state. Senator Lely Tellez, a former journalist turned lawmaker, has become a lightning rod in this controversy, accusing Sheinbaum and her Morena party of being in bed with the cartels. Her explosive interviews have set off a firestorm, both in Mexico and abroad. Let's explore her allegations and the chaos they've unleashed. Senator Tellez, exposing the narco state. In a series of interviews on Fox Noticia, Senator Lely Tellez dropped a bombshell of her own. Mexico, she declared, is a narco state, and President Sheinbaum's Morena party is deeply entangled with cartel bosses. According to Tellez, the cartels have been funding political campaigns, buying loyalty, and determining who holds power in Mexico. Her accusations were blunt and unapologetic, resonating with millions of Mexicans who have grown weary of violence and corruption. Tellez didn't stop at generalities. She pointed fingers directly at Sheinbaum, claiming that the president's refusal to accept U.S. military assistance was motivated by a desire to protect cartel interests. The only ones who don't like that President Trump is sending help and trying to support Mexicans against the cartels are the narco politicians, Tellez said. That includes President Sheinbaum. Her use of the nickname Sheinbaum was a deliberate jab, reflecting the growing frustration among Mexicans who feel their government has failed them. Sheinbaum's response was swift and furious. She publicly condemned Tellez for speaking to foreign media and accused her of inviting foreign intervention, a charge that carried serious political weight in a country sensitive to its sovereignty. But Tellez refused to back down. In a follow-up interview, she doubled down on her claims, warning that Mexico was on the brink of becoming the next Venezuela under Sheinbaum's leadership. She accused the Morena party of destroying democratic institutions and aligning with authoritarian regimes like those in Venezuela and Cuba. The fallout from Tellez's interviews was explosive. Sheinbaum threatened legal action, suggesting that Tellez could face criminal prosecution for her statements. Tellez, undeterred, acknowledged the risks, admitting that she feared for her life, but felt compelled to speak out. Her courage has made her a hero to some and a traitor to others, highlighting the deep divisions within Mexico's political landscape. From words to fists. The tension sparked by Tellez's accusations didn't stay confined to television screens. They spilled onto the floor of Mexico's Senate, where lawmakers traded insults and punches, in a shocking display of the country's fractured state. This wasn't just a political disagreement. It was a physical manifestation of Mexico's struggle to confront its demons. Let's take a closer look at this chaotic scene and what it means for the nation. A Senate brawl, the breaking point. On a day meant to conclude with the solemn playing of Mexico's national anthem, the Senate chamber descended into chaos. Opposition lawmaker Alejandro Alito Moreno took the floor to demand stronger cooperation with the United States and a reconsideration of Trump's proposal for military assistance against the cartels. Before he could finish, Senate President Gerardo Fernandez Noroña, a close ally of Sheinbaum, cut his microphone, refusing to let him speak. What followed was a scene straight out of a barroom brawl. Moreno and Noroña clashed physically, with Moreno grabbing at Noroña and landing a slap on his neck. As other lawmakers tried to intervene, the situation escalated, with shouting and shoving erupting across the chamber. The incident, broadcast live on national television, was a stark reminder of the deep divisions within Mexico's government. On one side were those who saw U.S. intervention as a necessary step to dismantle the cartels, On the other were those who viewed it as a violation of national sovereignty, even at the cost of continued violence. This brawl wasn't just about two politicians losing their tempers. It was a microcosm of a nation on the brink. The Death Door video argues that Mexico is breaking apart under corruption and fear, with half the country desperate for foreign help and the other half clinging to the illusion of control. The Senate fight underscored the stakes. While politicians bicker, ordinary Mexicans are paying the price. The human cost of corruption. Beyond the political drama and explosive accusations lies a grim reality. The Mexican people are suffering. Cartel violence has turned cities like Culiacan into war zones, with innocent civilians caught in the crossfire. As the death toll rises, many Mexicans are looking north, hoping that Trump's aggressive stance against the cartels might offer a lifeline. Let's examine the human toll of this crisis and why so many are pinning their hopes on foreign intervention. The cartel crisis, a nation under siege. In Culiacan, the capital of Sinaloa, life has become a nightmare. The Death Door video cites over 900 killings since September 2025, a staggering figure that includes not just cartel members, but countless innocent bystanders. The unwritten pact to spare civilians has been shattered, with entire communities living in fear of stray bullets and targeted assassinations. Journalists, mayors, and activists who dare to challenge the cartels are routinely silenced, their bodies left as warnings to others. The video paints a bleak picture of a country where the government has lost control. The Mexican government has no control over them at all, the narrator declares, echoing Trump's claim that Mexico is run by drug cartels who are the most vicious animals you could ever imagine. The statistics are staggering. Over 1 million people murdered or disappeared in Mexico this century, according to human rights organizations. The cartel's grip on the country is so tight that local politicians who oppose them are often killed, along with their families and supporters. For many Mexicans, the situation feels hopeless. The video captures the desperation of ordinary citizens, one of whom pleads, "I ask my God that all this may be over, that there may be a settlement." Another resident of Culiacan laments, "Never before have we seen so many people dead." The failure of Sheinbaum's hugs not bullets strategy has only deepened this despair as cartels grow bolder and more ruthless. Trump's plan. A controversial solution faced with this crisis, Donald Trump has proposed a radical solution: direct U.S. military intervention. On his first day in office in January 2025, Trump signed an executive order designating Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, a move that allows the U.S. to pursue them with lethal force anywhere in the world. He followed this with plans to militarize the U.S.-Mexico border, establishing national defense areas staffed with thousands of active duty troops and military equipment. Trump's rhetoric has been uncompromising. He has called for drone strikes on cartel strongholds and even suggested crossing the border to destroy their operations. While such actions would likely violate international law, Trump argues that the cartels pose a direct threat to U.S. national security, with their drugs fueling an overdose crisis that claims thousands of American lives annually. Sheinbaum's rejection of Trump's plan has only fueled his resolve. The Death Door video reveals that Trump secretly ordered the Pentagon to draw up military options for strikes in Sinaloa, Michoacán, and Guerrero, regions known as cartel strongholds. When Sheinbaum learned of these plans, she lashed out, declaring that U.S. military intervention was absolutely out of the question. Her stance has drawn criticism from figures like Bill O'Reilly, who accused her of protecting the cartels and claimed that Mexico has no sovereignty because it is effectively controlled by drug lords. A nation at a crossroads. As the accusations fly and tensions escalate, Mexico finds itself at a crossroads. Will it accept U.S. help and risk its sovereignty, Or will it continue to fight the cartels alone, even as the death toll mounts? The voices of ordinary Mexicans, desperate for an end to the violence, are growing louder, but so are the cries of those who fear foreign intervention. Let's explore the broader implications of this crisis and what it means for the future of U.S.-Mexico relations. The bigger picture, a test for U.S.-Mexico relations. The $100 million bribe scandal and the ensuing debate over U.S. intervention have brought U.S.-Mexico relations to a breaking point. For decades, the two countries have cooperated on issues like trade, migration, and security, but the cartel crisis has exposed deep fault lines. Trump's aggressive stance, while popular among some Americans frustrated by the flow of drugs across the border, risks alienating a key ally and destabilizing the region further. In Mexico, the idea of U.S. troops crossing the border is a non-starter for many, evoking memories of historical interventions like the Mexican-American War. Sheinbaum's insistence on sovereignty resonates with a populace wary of foreign influence, but it also raises questions about her ability to address the cartel problem domestically. The Death Door video argues that her refusal to cooperate with Trump is less about national pride and more about protecting a corrupt system that benefits from cartel money. Meanwhile, the human cost of this crisis continues to mount. In the United States, overdose deaths linked to cartel-supplied drugs like fentanyl have skyrocketed, prompting calls for decisive action. In Mexico, the violence has become so pervasive that some citizens are openly calling for U.S. intervention, a sentiment that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. Many have pinned their hopes on President Donald Trump to wage war on the cartels and finish the reign of drug lords. The video notes, capturing the desperation of a people abandoned by their own government. A call to action. As we close this deep dive into one of the most explosive scandals of our time, one thing is clear. Mexico is a nation in crisis, and the United States is watching closely. The allegations of a $100 million bribe, the accusations against Claudia Sheinbaum, and the growing calls for U.S. intervention have brought this issue to a boiling point. The question now is whether Mexico can confront its demons or whether it will continue to spiral toward chaos. The Death Door video ends with a powerful call to action, urging viewers to share their thoughts and engage with the issue. The cartels are not the major problem, the narrator concludes. Corrupt politicians are. It's a sentiment that resonates on both sides of the border as citizens demand accountability from their leaders. Whether through U.S. intervention or internal reform, the fight against the cartels is far from over. For now, the world watches as Mexico grapples with its future and the shadow of the cartels looms large. What do you think? Should the U.S. step in to combat the cartels, or should Mexico be left to solve its own problems? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this unfolding crisis. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the truth is only beginning to come to light.